Welcome to the sixth episode of PAOK Talk. We are your hosts, Angelo and Jono. Jono, how are you doing?
Angelo, hey, I'm doing better than I was post game against Krasnodar. I'm feeling a little bit more relaxed and cooler and thinking a little bit more clearly. But yeah, still overly disappointed. It was a disappointing result for us.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely I'm still heated. It's still in the front of my mind, really. I haven't been able to get it out of my head how close we were and the expectations that we had. And I don't want to give any hints or secrets, so we'll just wait until further along the show to talk about. But yeah, so I think that it'll be a good episode. I'm a little hot headed. You've cooled off, so we'll see what happens. So just give me your outlook on the game and where you think we lost it. Was it player selection? Was it the tactics? So go ahead, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, so I mean, the overriding emotion post game was, I mean, is it ever going to happen? Because we probably had our best opportunity against an opposition, as we mentioned previously. We're not of the ilk of our previous opponents in the playoff round, be it Benfica or Schalke. We're a lot stronger then than they are now 7 years ago. So it kind of really feels like, it's never going to happen. So there's that overriding frustration that exists. In terms of where it was lost, look, we weren't overly bad again. I thought we started well. They clearly came to play to play 0-0 and to try and get a goal on the counter. Obviously, the game played out how they wanted it. But I thought we started well. We put them under pressure. Probably lacked really clear-cut chances. We got into dangerous areas and lacked the final chance. A lot of the shots, there was just that Zivkovic chance in the first 15 or 20, I think,
right,
that forced the fingertip save.
Yep.
That Crespo header that he should have done better with, but most of the chances were really at the keeper, nothing overly difficult, nothing that built a lot of pressure. So I mean, in hindsight, it's easy to say, but we said it pre-game. I think a lot of fans wanted Colak to start. We saw that a striker would really straighten us up structurally and tactically, and that didn't happen. And I think it would have helped. So I think in hindsight, you can look at that and say, yep, Colak should have started. I mean, not even in hindsight, we were aware of it. So yeah, we knew that would probably be an issue. So disappointing in that. I mean, tactically, the only bone I have to pick with Ferreira is probably that. The only bone I have to pick with Ferreira is that at the start of the second half, we kind of came out a little bit flat.
Yeah.
So we started the first half well, pressed them and under pressure. Second half, we came out flat, and it was all leading towards what no one wanted, which was get to the 60th, the 65th, 70th at 0-0, and
right,
the game is on a knife edge. And then what happens? You get broken on, the players fatigued. You saw them getting lazier and lazier when we lost possession. Players were just jogging back. There was no intent to get back.
Yep.
Krasnodar was finding space. The goal happened. So my bone to pick is more in the second half, early, because I think the changes he made were correct. But yeah, that's my tactical bone to pick. I don't know how you saw the game.
So
tell me.
I'm going to say this as nicely as possible, but I think he messed up big time. I think that the player selections cost him. The only change I would have done was I would have started Colak, but that's a big change. There was one time where Yanuli crossed the ball from it was maybe 30 yards out where Pelkas just missed it. It was in the first half, and Pelkas just came up short and the ball hit the goalie's leg. It went behind him a little bit. I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about. But someone like Colak, who has a good pedigree in front of the goal, who has a good knack for the goal, a natural striker, I think that he would have gotten there. Now, like you said, I think the first half we actually played really, really well. We came out with a clear advantage intensity-wise. I think that we had a clear plan going into it of not playing with the ball in the back. One of the things that we always do, which I hate, is when we have the pressure on them, we'll bring it back to our center back, who will bring it back to the goalie, kind of slow things down, right? I think the first half we didn't do that. We played the ball over the top a lot. I'm guessing that was Ferreira's game plan, to focus on the weak defenders, center backs, outside backs. We had a lot of chances, especially with Crespo on the right side going down. I think that he played well, especially for someone who's not a right wing back. But
Mhm.
moving forward, the first half, again, like you said, I think we played well. We had a couple chances. The Crespo chance, obviously, he missed from point blank, pretty much a couple yards out. But I think it was El Kaduri who headed it to him. It was a slow header, not like anything El Kaduri did was wrong, but there was just not enough force for Crespo to put the energy back into the ball. Now, obviously, you're taught to head the ball back where it came from, head it low. He headed it right at the goalie, so. Maybe if it was someone else, perhaps they will have scored. But I don't blame him too much, just because the speed of the ball wasn't coming in, so he didn't have that power to redirect it. But ultimately, I really do think that Ferreira messed up, and as we said, we don't want to get into the 60th, 70th minute tied 0-0. I think that he waited too long to put Cholak in. As I've mentioned before in last episode, he was our one of our star signings. I'd say probably the star signing of this transfer window. Um, he's replacing a loved player. He's replacing someone who scored a lot of goals for us. And it begs the question to think, if we had Akbom, would we have won that game? I think yes. I think we would have probably won both games. So if you are a team up and up, why, excuse my language, but why in the hell would you get rid of your star striker, sign a player, and then not play him or not start him? And I think he came on, the 65th minute?
I think it was just before the hour mark.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So
about
yeah. So
58,
60. Yeah.
59.
So right. So you only give him 30 minutes in a 90-minute game. Right. It makes
Mm.
zero sense when he started the whole game before. Right. With the whole rotation, and they gave him the start. So I just think that he messed that up. I think so. Let me give you a couple other players. I think Pelkas didn't really do anything. Uh, Early on in the game, he had a couple good chances where he could have laid the ball off, but he tried to take on two or three players inside the box. I think there was one time in particular, pretty early on, where he was going down the right center side, and he had El Kaduri on the
Mm.
right side for a pass, but he kind of tried to dribble past the last center back, and the guy stole it. Um,
Yep.
I think Solis was non-existent. Um, I think that he didn't play that well. I think Zivkovic played pretty well. He had that chance where the goalie made a fingertip save. I couldn't tell if that was going in based off the angle, but still, it was a good chance. I think that um, Schwab was, again, non existent. Now, in a game like that, we need chances. Um, so he didn't offer that much. I'm sure he offered in things where, settling down the play. Um, I'm just writing down the note that I want to mention later. I think that he did pretty good. I think the player of the match was El Kaduri.
My
Uh,
man
for
comes up
me,
big again in a big game.
yeah, I think
So
that was his probably best game that he's played for us. He was working nonstop. He made some great skill work with the ball. In the last 10 minutes or 5 minutes or so, you saw him a lot with his hands on his knees, bending over, just tired. From tracking back, helping out defensively, moving forward. I think Ingason played well. I think our defense pretty much played well. Mikhailidis was again a little out of his league. He did some good things, but then he got beat a couple times, obviously with that own goal. Unlucky, but you got to figure out a way to not scorpion kick that ball into the goal. So I do think that the lack of a striker was the reason that we lost the game. Cholak, I can't think of any reason why Cholak wouldn't have started. Another thing that kind of angered me was Biseswar not even being on the team or on the bench, but he kept Ninua, right? So in the last 10 minutes, who would you have rather, if it was still 1-1, right? Who would you have rather had? Would you rather have had Ninua off the bench or Biseswar in a game like
before,
that?
yeah. Bizisva had that injury over the weekend. Apparently, he trained fully, but like in between games. But he was left out of the squad. Now there are some rumors circulating, but these are these aren't from reputable news sources that he may be another player that's had a falling out. But I'll
That's what
hold
I've
my
heard.
judgment until this weekend squad, and if he's not included, because he hasn't been listed as injured. So if he's not included this weekend, then I think we can start to,
So,
draw
yeah,
conclusions.
I think that's right. I think if he's injured, that's one thing. But if he did have a falling out, and that's what I've heard,
Yeah.
then that's something that we've got to figure out because I was a fan of Ferreira. I was never on
Mhm.
the the train to get rid of him. But if you had Matos, I think we win that game. If you even have Verinia as the right wing back, I don't know though because Cabello was going down that side pretty easily, and Verinia wasn't a strong defender, so I think that's questionable. I think Matos, you would have won that game. I think if you had Akbom, you would have won that game. I think if you could have offered Biswa off the bench, if he was healthy, then that's something that he could have brought in. If it was a 1-1 game, I know it was 2-1 at that time, but just the fact that he didn't have him, and those are the players that you need. Yeah, so again, good.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just gonna say, like on the Matos thing, it's something that I heard post game and listening to radio from Saloniki. A couple fans had the same view, but things like that, like, kind of frustrate me. When post game, like, we knocked out Besiktas, we knocked out Benfica without him, and it was all rosy. And it's easy now to come out and say, Matos should have played him. Vieirinha's had a contract dispute with the team. I don't think it's to do with Ferreira. I think it's a financial issue.
Right.
So I don't like when people come out once, everyone's been on the bandwagon. Look, big picture, maybe, but Matos has been not in his plans all summer or, all preseason. So we've known that. So look, maybe there might be some truth to that. Like, I'm not going to deny that. Like, I'm not, closed-minded like that. But the thing is, he hasn't played. He was never a realistic option for the game. And to come out post-game, I mean, we just said it. First half, the game was there to be won. We probably could have scored. That's what cost us. In hindsight, it is easy to say. And the thing is, and if we had performed badly in previous games, I would agree. I would say he should have brought Matos back sooner. But we had been winning in Europe without him. So I'm not a fan of that, like afterwards, and we drop a big, bowl of crap in the coach's lap. Again, apologies for the language, but that's just my opinion. But I will agree that Ferreira made some mistakes, but I don't think Matos was. I mean, like, that's just not something, in my opinion, that you can, call him out for post game.
Well, yeah, we could swear all we want. This is our YouTube channel, so whatever. Was this our best chance blown at making a group stage for the Champions League?
Well, yes, I think absolutely. I think we know that next year there's only one Greek team that goes into the Champions League. That'll be the champion. We've already dropped 4 points. I think it's going to be a tough year. We'll touch on the league a little bit later. I think it's going to be a tough year for us. I can't see us competing for the title, honestly. So yeah, I think that was the best chance we drew Besiktas Benfica in one game ties, obviously due to the COVID situation, and we knocked them out. So everything was kind of going our way. We got Krasnodar, not a weak team, but a team that we saw was beatable over 2 legs.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's a big opportunity blown, and whether we get it back in the future. I mean, I qualified this morning for the group stage of the Europa League, so Greece will have 3 teams this year in Europe. So there's a chance to collect coefficient points. So hopefully in 2 years' time we get back to 2 teams in the Champions League. But I think yes, I think in the near future you can't. It's hard to see any other scenario where we're in the group stage, and I think it's just like we just weren't good enough over 2 legs. Like, we just haven't been a Champions League caliber team.
I think that's fair.
Like, for a while, yeah. I think that's what it comes down to. I don't want to blame luck, blame player selection, whatever. Like, bottom line, the way we were managed, as you mentioned, the sale of Akbom, again, we discussed the previous episode, but we just weren't a Champions League caliber team in all aspects, right? So I think at the end of the day, that's it. I mean, you get what you deserve in football, especially over 2 legs. So
I think our best chance at making the Champions League in terms of a caliber team was that one that we lost to Ajax 4-4 in aggregate. Or you remember that? What was that, 2013?
Yeah, that was 10-11. I think there was another qualifying round after that, though.
Yeah, because
then I don't know who we would have drawn, but yes,
right. But I think that was in terms of team caliber. I think that was probably our best. I think that team could have not competed in the Champions League, but I think we wouldn't have been embarrassed.
Well, that team should have made the round of 16 in the Europa League, right? If you remember, we lost to CSKA in Moscow after missing so many chances in Russia. It was in the snow,
right? Wasn't it snowing that game? Or
yeah, it was. I think it was. It was extremely cold. It was winter in Russia, so it was freezing. Yeah.
But yeah, so I do think too that it was our easiest chance so far in our history to qualify. Now, I can't speak about the future, but I do like the fact that there's still 3 Greek teams in play, and I think all three can actually make the group stages. Now, I'm not saying Olympiacos is going to make the group stages of Champions League, but if they
In
finish
knockout
third,
stages.
if they finish third, they could make the group stages of the Europa League. So
The knockout stages. Sorry to correct you.
yeah,
The knockout
sorry,
stages.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, knockout stages.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think that all three teams can make the knockout stages, so that'll give us some points. But ultimately, we have to play well. We have to get the wins that we need to get. In the future, yes, next year it's gonna suck. No teams in the Europa League, couple teams in the Conference League. I just say Europa League too.
Yeah, I think it's officially called the Conference League, but yeah, it is essentially a Europa League too, I
It's the,
guess.
it's the minor leagues for the Europa League. But yeah, so all right, so I'll call it Conference League. Yeah, so but I've seen some comments and I kind of agree with them. Is just win the games you're matched up against, right? So even if we make the Conference League, whatever, win our group. Go to the knockout stages. Win. Get to the round of 16. Get to the round of 8. That's the only thing we can do. That's the only way that we're going to up our coefficient, and that Greece is going to up their coefficient. So this actually might be a blessing in disguise. In like 2-3 years, yes, we're going to have a lull, right, where there's only one team making the Champions League, if that. The group stages for the next 2-3 years. But then after that, I think by the points that we accumulate based off of the Conference League or the Europa League, if the Champions League team finishes third, I think that'll help us in the future.
Yeah, I agree. The Conference League, I mean, we don't know what it's going to be yet. We know that the teams are going to be, of similar ranking to Greece. So, I mean, it's still European competition.
Right.
You're still going to get points. So, yeah, I'm with you. I mean, you play it seriously, and I can't see, PAOK and other teams from similar leagues, similar ranked leagues, not taking it seriously. So, I mean, obviously it's not ideal. Like the Europa League is a good level, I think, for PAOK. I think, like you said, group stage and then potentially qualifying. But yeah, I think the Conference League will be taken seriously in future, but we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, I agree. So what do you think about Ferreira? I mean, going forward, we have the Europa League, we have the Super League. What's his future like? Is he under pressure, or you think he's safe for the full year?
Look, I don't know about the full year. He's definitely under pressure. The questions need to be asked, and rightfully so. So I'm interested to see the business VAR play out, because if he has had another falling out with a player, now it gets to a point where you back the coach, but at some point you're the common denominator.
Agreed.
Now, that's just my opinion. Now, people will talk about cliques, which may exist within a team. I mean, I've never been at a professional level team. I don't know the power that, star players have, but I've played in teams where, the better players tend to get what they want. Now, he's had a falling out with, Zabar reportedly.
Yeah.
Matos is still training with the team, so I don't think they've had him falling out. I think it's just Matos has just been told that he's surplus to requirements.
Right.
So, look, I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens with that. Yeah, so I don't know. The thing that, if you look at, since he changed formation, I mean, last year our whole year wasn't great. Even when we were winning in the first half of the season, there was only a handful of good performances. We just found a way to win. The team had that championship mentality, had that winning mentality, and found a way to win. Once they kind of finished riding that wave, well, ultimately we weren't good enough and we dropped points and the poor performances caught up with us. So since he's changed formation, the common theme has been we struggle to score.
Yep.
Now in Europe, it helped. It kept us tight defensively. In the one legs, obviously, it worked. Brilliantly. Now I think it's something that he needs to rethink going into the league, and potentially the Europa League. I mean, depending on your opponent, you can't chop and change formations that often. But I mean, there's an overall picture here. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but we don't score heavily since the change of formation. So, and I can't see him changing that because he's basically worked a preseason, admittedly a reduced preseason because of COVID, but he's worked, some type of preseason with the players working on this formation. So I don't know if he'll change it, but I think if he doesn't, we're going to get a lot more frustrating draws, be it 0-0s, 1-1s, and I think the pressure's going to build quickly. I think he's safe probably until, look, honestly, it's hard to read because Greece can be unpredictable at times too.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't think he's safe for the year at this stage. It's obviously all pending performance. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he got sacked at some point. But I think for the next month or two, I mean, he's not getting the sack post Krasnodar. Obviously, I think that would have been a stupid move.
I'm 50-50, to be honest. I think that if they drop points to teams they shouldn't be dropping to, I think he'll get fired. I think
So,
that we
so let's say we lose against Offie. Would you sack him
yes,
on the weekend? You would sack him. If we
yes.
sorry, if we drop points, if we draw, he's
So
gone.
if we draw, I'll say you need to pretty much win out except the derbies. If I was
So
Savidis.
all wins from here, basically.
But the derbies are derbies, right? So I'm not. But I'm saying you need to everyone else except Olympiacos, Panathinaikos, Aris, Ike. I think those, yeah. So everyone else besides those, you need to win. No more draws.
Okay.
That's the only way
Fair.
we're gonna get back in. I think if we don't think that we have a chance at first or second, I think he's gone, or even a legitimate chance at first. If you go into the new year 10 points down, I think he's gone. 100%.
Well, here's the thing. I can't see that not happening. We can't score. I mean, is Sherlock going to help? We need to see him play, but there's going to be more draws. I can't not see more draws. I can't not see more drop points. I think what you're saying is going to be a reality, to be honest. And I hate to say it, but that's how I'm seeing it at the moment.
Again, like if we lose to Offie, he's done. If we draw, I think that's going to be the ultimatum from Savidis. If you drop points again against one of these teams, you're done. And I think we're going to go young. I think we're going to go Garcia, bring up young. Because now, like you said, there's no more Champions League for the next couple years. So why not? If 2 through 4, 2 through 5, whatever make the Conference League, why the hell not? Why not just try something new? Go the youth route. I'm not a fan of the youth route because I feel like people hype up players. Like Solis was hyped up to be one of the top European young players. And besides that one game he had, he's done nothing. Right? I mean, so far this season. Or not he has done nothing, but he hasn't lived up to the hype, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I could see him. I've been a fan of Ferreira. I'm not a fan of sacking coaches early. I am a coach, so I understand how difficult it is. But there's got to be a point where you realize who we are. We're PAOK. We're not a middle of the road team. We're a team that has aspirations of being one of the top teams in Greece, year in and year out, not just once every 20 years, every 10 years. And I think that's what the fans expect. So I think that if he gets in trouble and he finds himself 10, 11 points out, I think we're just going to say, screw it, sell the players, go young. If we have a year where we finish 5th, 4th, so be it, as long as we make Europe. Because we still have some coefficient points where we can make a run. But it's just a shame to see us go from Champions League group stage hopefuls to 4th or 5th in the Greek league.
Well, I'll say on what you're saying. I mean, there's nothing, like, we don't know what's been said internally. We don't know that what you just said. You know what? We've made the Europa League group. That was our goal, right? Europa League group stage, Champions League was the bonus. The fact that we got so close and got, a beatable opponent is what makes it sting. But I think if we, think with a little bit of clarity, I mean, Ferreira's integrated some youth. We know, I mean, we lost one game and we're talking about sacking him. Like, fans are brutal. Like, I can't see PAOK fans standing for a season where we end up 4th or 5th. That just won't happen. We're not going to overhaul the squad with youth. It's impossible to do if you're a top level club.
Right. I think though, if you hire Garcia, fan favorite, I think the fans know that. And I was gonna say the fans know and the players know that this year they're not giving up, but I think they're trying to rebuild. I think if you hire someone, a foreigner, mercenary, whatever, I think then that might be confusing. But I think if you hire someone internally, someone like Garcia, I think that will basically say everyone, okay, he's a fan favorite. People are not going to want him to leave after one bad year. Give him a chance. But I agree, the climate in Greece isn't great for rebuilds, especially for PAOK.
Yep. No, that's definitely a thing. Like, and you can only, I mean, you just said yourself, you're a coach. You know that if you I think you have to have a balance of youth and experience, which is what we have now.
Right.
You have Solis and Mikhailidis, and the team's still competing somewhat, and we're dropping points, and we're all carrying on, and we're all screaming and shouting. Imagine, you bringing more. So you're talking about selling,
Yeah.
putting out. Like, I just don't think that's like a realistic option. And I agree, Ferreira's going to be under pressure if he keeps dropping points. But yeah, I don't think that PAOK will ever write off a year and be like, especially in this Greek league, like Panathinaikos is struggling. They've struggled for a few years. I mean, we should not be finishing lower than third, worst case, regardless of,
They're
who
going to
our
be
coach
good
is.
in a couple of years, though, because they did it. They regrouped. Those young players are going to get experience. I think they're going to be good in a couple of years.
Panathinaikos, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure. Sacking Vornis, they've brought in a lot of foreigners now under this new guy. It's still early, but they're under pressure. And there's words coming out of Athens that if they don't beat Aris this weekend, that Poyatos, the coach of Panathinaikos, is going to get sacked. But
Right.
we'll see how that plays out. It's not just PAOK that goes with the, let's sack the manager.
Welcome to
It's
Greece.
good to see that yes, welcome to Greece. Welcome to Greece.
So yeah, we've mentioned a lot about the Europa League. So now it's official that we're in pot 2 going into the draw, which is tomorrow, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep. So, well, I mean, depending on where you are in the
Where you
world.
Yep.
Yeah. So for me, it's in a couple hours, 10 hours or so, 11 hours.
Yeah, I think it's Friday night, early Saturday morning Australian time for
Right.
anyone here.
So we're in pot 2. We are the third to last team in pot 2, so we got miracle, right? There's a lot of things to happen. I was actually following it today, and there's a lot of upsets. Milan just missed. It was funny because I turned off the Milan game and they were down 2-1, and I was like, oh, it's over. And I guess they tied it up and they went to extra time and they went to penalties and won on penalties. What are your expectations, before we talk about dream matchups or nightmare matchups, what are your expectations if we have a middle of the road draw, like a fair draw? What are your expectations?
Look, a fair draw where we don't, because look, pot 3 there are still some good teams in there. Just looking at it, but it's to qualify for the round of 32.
Right.
I mean, in all of our Europa League group stage campaigns, you always have the team from pot 1, which tends to be a relative powerhouse. Maybe not necessarily always in world football, but by Europa League standards. But you still have your Arsenals, your Napolis, your Benficas there. So you still got some, Champions League caliber teams, really. So again, I would expect to qualify. Second is fine. Like, I've never been one to put a big, first, second, whatever. I think it's just a financial gain if you come
Right.
first. And I guess you get seeded. But I mean, really, some of the teams that drop out of the Champions League are just as difficult. So no, mine would be to qualify for the round of 32. Beyond that, I mean, it's tough depending on who you get, but I just want to qualify out of the group stage. That's what I want and I expect. Yourself?
I think the key word that you just said is expect. I do not want another episode like a couple years ago, where we had an easy group and we got left at the altar. We got left behind because we were coming off a Champions League. I think that was the Ajax year with the penalties, right?
No, so that was the where Benfica did us in the final playoff round, where we had the run in the Champions League and we nearly made the group stage. Yeah,
right.
The one
Yes,
that
that's the one. Yeah. Right. But still, that we're in the same scenario now. So I'm just hoping that doesn't happen. I expect, right? I'm not even hoping. I expect to make it out of the group stages. I mean, when you're a team that comes within 20 minutes of making the Champions League, which we were, 30 minutes or so, whatever. We could have made the group stages. When we're a team that's that close, and you get sent down to the Europa League, you have to make the group stages. Otherwise, I think it was a failed European campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I know people say that, we were just hoping to make group stages, but I think we were good enough to qualify for the knockout stages in Europa League. So maybe failed European campaign is heavy, but based off of what we've done so far, I think it'd be a failure.
Yeah, look, that's fair. Again, this is all we're speaking as if we got a fair draw.
Right.
Looking at the pods now, if we want to get into like a potential draw, I mean, we could end up with a group of, Napoli, PAOK, AC Milan, and Lille. Like, that's a tough group. Like, if you get that and we don't qualify, I mean, I'm not going to crucify Ferreira and the team.
Right. I'd be very I'd say that's very PAOK like to get a group like that, right?
Yep, for sure. That wouldn't shock me at all.
So that's probably the group of death.
I mean,
What do you think the easiest group would be?
well, just looking at pot one, there's probably only two or three teams that I would feel relatively confident against. Celtic, I mean, Scottish teams aren't great to be honest, so I wouldn't mind Celtic, Ghent, and Braga, which is where Ferreira came
Right.
from. So he'd know them. I mean, none of those teams are scary in name. Um, so yeah, those three from pot one would be ideal. Any one of those three, in my opinion.
Right.
Pot three, it's honestly littered with tricky teams. AZ Alkmaar was in the Champions League qualifying. We know we don't have a great record against Dutch teams. Feyenoord's in there, Milan's in there. Hoffenheim from Germany is tricky. Um, LASK from Austria, Lusk. I don't know how they say
Yeah.
their name. Did they not beat Sporting Lisbon today 4-1? They did.
Right.
So they're also in pot three. So I mean, I don't know a lot of these teams, but there are big names there. So I mean, yeah. So the easiest draw from there, I don't know, maybe Molde from Norway or Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then pot four. I mean, there's no one too scary except for the French teams. I want to avoid Lille and
Oh
Nice.
yeah,
So
100%. And even Sivasspor.
you think the Turkish team?
Because of everything and that it means, I think that it would be a more difficult game than an Antwerp or a Wolfsburger. I just think of the between the rivalry and the Turkish teams. They pay, they get big name players in. I mean, I wouldn't say that they're higher up than the French teams, but I would say they're third between Lille and Nice.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, even in pot four, like Slovan Liberec there, who knocked us out last season in the
Right.
Europa League qualifying. So, I mean, if we're not on, you're going to end up at the bottom of the group. So we need to be on. But yeah, no, I think there's a good draw in there, but there's also tricky draws that we could get. So
I think
I
there's
don't know.
more. I think there's more tricky draws. I think that if we were in pot three, if you're looking at the two pots right now, I think pot three is stronger than pot two.
Just based off names, I agree with you.
Right.
Again, not knowing a whole lot on about teams, but yeah, in terms of names, yeah, like Dinamo Zagreb, like Ludogorets, Young Boys, they don't scare you really. But these are teams that have had runs in the Europa in the previous year, so we might be underselling them, like without really, watching them and following them.
Right,
It's hard to judge.
but when you're at pot three and you have Granada, right, from Spain, they're going to be a solid team. You have Milan, you have AZ, you have Hoffenheim, you have, like you said, Lask, you have Cluj, who's not even that bad either. I mean, you have some trick. So for me, the group of death would really be any of the two. The thing about the English teams in the Europa League is they don't play their star players. So that's why I wouldn't consider them. But you have a Benfica again. Imagine we get them, right? Have a Leverkusen who's really good. You have again Roma, Napoli. I think those would be the toughest teams. Pot three, I wouldn't want to face Milan. I wouldn't want to face the Spanish team, Granada, Milan, AZ. Of the lower ones, I wouldn't want to face Hoffenheim, obviously. And then pot four, like you said, the French teams are the ones that, Lille and Nice. I think both those teams are quality. For the easiest one, I agree with you. Braga, Ghent, even Ghent. They didn't look good in the Champions League qualifiers that they had. Oh,
They actually sacked our former coach Laszlo Bologna. I
right,
think
yeah,
just before their Champions League qualifier, one of them.
right,
So
yeah.
they've had a change in manager
Yeah,
as well.
anyone pretty much from Leverkusen down. I'm not saying Villarreal is easy, but I think that they'd be easier than Leverkusen or Benfica, Napoli, Roma. So I think Villarreal, Moscow, Braga, Ghent, Eindhoven. I wouldn't want. Celtic.
Yep.
I'd be fine with. So any of those, well, five teams. In pot three, give me like Hapoel Beersheva, give me Molde, give me Maccabi Tel Aviv, give me Rangers. And then in pot four, give me. I was watching the Omonia Olympiacos game. I mean, Omonia couldn't get anything. I think they got zero. They didn't threaten them once. So give me them. Give me Lech Poznan. I'll take Dundalk. I wouldn't want the Ukrainians though. Zoria. The Ukrainians, they tend to sometimes give us trouble. It's a decent league, so I think there's chances for both. I think it's either going to be really good or really bad. I don't, I have a feeling it's not going to be in the middle.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed for really good because, I mean, I think we really need a run in Europe. It's been 4 seasons, 5 seasons since we made it out of the group stage. Under Ivic was the last time
Right.
in 2016-17. So I think it's, yeah, the club is due for a run in Europe and getting out of the groups is definitely needed this year.
Right. Yeah, so I guess we'll wait and see for that. Just one more thing before we finish. We have a couple more minutes, so we'll talk quickly about this. We have the matchup versus Ofi this weekend. What are your expectations for the league? What are your expectations for this next game? So what are you thinking?
Well, I mean, we kind of touched on it earlier, but for the league, I hate to say it, but I can't see us winning it this year. I don't know how many PAOK fans expect a league title this year. I mean, I'd like to see us stay competitive and stay within maybe 2 games
Right.
into the new year, into 2021. Just because we've already dropped 4 points, yeah, I can't see us competing. So my expectation, I mean, you can't even say second or third because, like you said, like we said earlier, there's no Europa League, there's no Champions League, it's just Conference League. So
Right.
much of a muchness. I want to see us stay in touch with the top of the table for as long as possible, and I guess then I want to see the run in Europe that we mentioned, and I wouldn't mind another cup run. I mean, it's only been a year without a trophy, but I kind of got used to winning things, so I wouldn't mind another run in the cup. And I think it's a realistic opportunity for a trophy, and winning something will definitely ease a lot of the tension around the team at the moment. In terms of Orfi, it's just a must win. Like as Volos was, like it's a must win. Now, the players, I don't know how they're going to be feeling post game. Obviously, they're going to be deflated. I'm again worried about the formation and the shape because chances are we're going to come up. Although Orfi does tend to open up a little bit, so I don't know what we're going to face. They have been known to kind of play a team 50-50,
Right.
like try to play their game. So we might not get quite a parked bus, but I imagine it's still going to be tough. Must win, in my opinion. And just for Ferreira, for himself, as we discussed, if you drop points, you're just inviting all the pressure on.
Right.
More pressure. So I don't know what you expect from the league, but I'm tipping from now that we're not going to win the title. I just want us to stay competitive and, whatever happens from there.
Yeah, I think that, again, I said it when we first dropped our points. I said that Olympiacos is a really good team. I think that we couldn't afford to drop those points, and we did it again, back-to-back games. So right now, my expectations finish second, based off where we are right now. I'm hoping that come playoff time, that we can be, I would say, within a couple games, so it's not just a runaway towards the end of the season. Because then all different kind of things could happen. We could even drop our spot even more. But I want something to be playing for. Again, I mean, you never know what could happen. I mean, Olympiacos can drop points. They're in the Champions League. Couple injuries. You never want to wish injury upon someone, but it is a part of the game. So again, I would say my expectations would be for us to make it out of the group stages of the Europa League. I think finish first or second in the Greek league. Other than that, I would say it's a failure. I mean, you can't go from winning the league 2 years ago to finishing third or fourth.
Yeah, look, I don't think we'll drop lower than third. Like fourth, yeah, like I said, I don't think that the caliber of teams is there to run us down. But I wouldn't be. I mean, I want second as well, just for and to stay in touch. But honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if we end up third. It's too early to tell, though. I mean, we're just giving out our predictions at this stage, but there's a lot of football to be played. And I don't know, they've looked a little bit, but they've gotten it done as well. They've gotten their results. So I mean, I'm expecting the top three to be Olympiacos, PAOK. I just don't know.
Would you be so real quick before we head off? Would you be more shocked if we finished first or fourth?
I'd be more shocked if we finished fourth. Absolutely. Yourself?
That's pretty close for me. I'm really not feeling great about what I saw.
Really, you think Panathinaikos or Aris would run us down? I mean, regardless of how
Now, I don't think talent-wise. I wouldn't say talent-wise or even, but I could see the season spiraling downhill from here. I think we're really close to that point. I think how we do against Ofi is going to be a big dictator on how the year is going to go. I think if we lose forget about it. I think if we drop points, it's going to be again hanging in the balance. I think this is probably the biggest game of the year right here, um, because who knows? From what I've watched with the PAOK TV, the stuff they've done on the what's that called? The videos like they showed about the behind the scenes. Oh, Tuba Uncensored, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I think that from what I saw, the team's pretty fragile. I mean, they admit when they know something's wrong, when they admit that they wanted something to happen, it didn't happen, and that it's kind of a mental. It plays a mental game on the team. So I think the team's gonna be at a fragile point right now because they know how close they were to playing in the Champions League. And are they going to get up for playing in Greece? Saviz, is he going to start selling a couple of his players that are now not going to help them in the Champions League? So I think we're at the road with two different ways to go. Right, we could either go one way, we could either push through it and have a good rest of the year, or we could fold and go downhill. So I think this game is really big to see what happens there.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I will agree with you. Just watching some of the behind the scenes things and the things you hear, I think Ferreira has failed to really capture his players and make them believe in him and like what he's trying to do.
Right.
And I mean, you're a coach, I know, and I think everyone listening follows sport and probably not just football, other sports too. You know that like you need to believe what the coach is telling you. You need to like listen
Right.
to like really buy into. And I don't think just from the things we hear, I don't think that's happened. So I think that anytime there are a couple of bad results, that works against him.
Yeah, agreed. Any final thoughts before we sign off for the night?
Thanks to everyone for listening. Angelo just built up the Orphy game as the game of the year, so make sure you tune in for that because it's going to be massive. And I do agree with that though. Like it's really important that we get a win and just really get our season back on track in the league because we haven't won since the first match day, so we've had 2 draws in a row. So thanks to everyone for listening and listen to the next one. I guess we'll break down the group stage draw of the Europa League and review the Orphy game.
Right. Yep. So thank you all for listening. Be sure to follow, subscribe, share the link, send it out. We're trying to make something good for English speaking PAOK fans around the world. So help us out as much as you can. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you next episode.